2, 1.
Hello, my fellow cigar lovers and addicts. Welcome to another Fogies Freaky Friday show. I hope everybody had a good week this week. Um, it's been quite the week for me, but I did get some great sticks this week. Had a couple good mail drops. Had a couple good local pickups this week, and ready to get things going tonight. Just kind of chill. I only had a little bit of time to prepare, and I think my puppy Wilson got my wireless microphone. I had him down here with me earlier this week. Hey, Bobby, what's going on, my brother? Glad you could make it. Um, yeah, I think the little fucker. I think he took my mic and took it somewhere and chewed it up or something. I can't find the damn thing, so I'm gonna have to look. Maybe it's in a pocket somewhere or something. It's been just utter chaos around here for a few days, and I don't know, but I got old Blue. is uh is everything coming in good? Camera look good? Can you hear me on the microphone? Everything sound okay? Let me know. Don't want to have any issues tonight. I want everything to roll smooth. So, you guys check in. Let me know what y'all smoking on, sipping on tonight. Uh, Tonight I've got a special cigar that, thank you, Bobby. I appreciate you, buddy. Um, I have been waiting on these for a minute to come out into production. And you guys know me, aside from being a huge Dunbarton guy, I'm also a huge EP Carrillo guy as well. I love my Encore Majestics. I love my allegiances. I love my pledges, and I really have been digging the pledge purples. But this is something that's yeah, I've had it for a while, Ray. Um, I just usually use the wireless mic so that it's not in there, but I think my puppy got my wireless mic and took it somewhere and chewed the some bitch up. So I'm using my studio mic tonight, but it should sound good and everything's good. But so anyway, tonight, special stick that I have been waiting to come out into production is the EP Carrillo Deep Blue. This is a limited edition. This is a mild to medium cigar. And man, I tell you what, the construction on this thing, look at that foot. I mean, this is well rolled. I've been waiting on these for a minute to come out, and I'm really excited to light this stogie up tonight. It's been a long time. I've been waiting for it for a long time. Hey, right on. Can't go wrong with a tobacco knot, man. I really, really love pretty much all the tobacco nuts that I've smoked. Of course, that 10th anniversary was really good. I've only got a couple of those left, and I'm really looking forward to that new Maduro that's coming out pretty soon. Oh, I think I'm just gonna do a nice straight cut on this baby tonight. supposedly this thing is like, based off the ocean. It's supposed to, have depths of complexity and depth of flavor changes as you smoke through the cigar. So hopefully this thing is going to be everything that I anticipated it to be. So I got a few exciting things in the works. Uh, this week I got with a guy named Ken that is the purveyor, the producer of the Chief of the Leaf cigars. I don't know if you guys have ever seen any of his stuff or not. Um, but I got in contact with him this week. We've been kind of chatting back and forth, and he's supposed to be sending me some of his cigars to try out, and he's agreed to come on the show as a guest. So I'm really looking forward to that. Trying out his cigars and seeing what they're all about. I really love supporting small businesses. Chief is his rank that he aspired to in the Air Force before he retired, and he just kind of wanted something to do. He loves cigars, so he got into making some cigars, and hopefully they're going to be really good. And soon we're going to be able to get together with him and find out what they're all about. Pretty tasty thus far. Ray, how you been doing, man? You've been killing it on your channel. Been enjoying your content and watching all the stuff you've been putting out lately. Mm, that's good. That's real good. And of course, you guys probably, most of you guys were with us when I was with Areas. There's Mr. Cash, probably on the road tonight, working hard, but he always tunes into the show and listens and chimes in when he gets a chance. Good to have you here with us tonight, Ron. And but I was on Rise and Grind show last Sunday, and we had such a great time. I mean, it was just a great night. Really jived, really great, and we had our little Dunbarton battle, and you know, uh, it was a great show, and so Marvin has invited me back this week, so. You guys, please tune in to his show with me again on Sunday. Um, I think that's going to be something. Yeah, it was, wasn't it, Bobby? I mean, it was a good show. We had a good time, and it was just a great vibe, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to getting together with him again this week, and probably going to be something that we're going to do a little more often. It's like a lot of times when people are doing podcasts, when you just get the right combination of guys together, and you just get a couple of guys, um, and it goes good, why not keep pushing that? Why not, embrace that? Because it's always a good conversation when he and I are together, and always a good show. And I'm looking forward to it. Tonight I've got basically just kind of one topic that's been kind of in my mind lately. Um, all of the shit that gets trapped in your head from when you were a kid, man. I think back on like jingles, from commercials. I mean, how many of y'all have, commercial jingles stuck in your head from when you were a little kid, or, something from a Saturday morning cartoon, or, something from your favorite TV show, you know? And, yeah, I think we do, Bobby. I think we have a great chemistry that works good together, and I really enjoy working with him and getting together with him, and it's always a good time. But some of the things that that stick with me is like a lot of the schoolhouse rock stuff, like I'm just a bill. Yeah, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. I loved that, man. And I loved how they used to teach us kids, about things that were, pertaining to the adult world and everything through all that. And I remember a lot of that stuff, and I remember cartoons, man. When I was growing up, you know, on broadcast TV, Saturday mornings was always cartoons. We always had our favorite shows, and we'd get up early, and we'd go downstairs in front of the TV and get the channel on, the cartoon channel, and we'd lay down a big old sleeping bag and unzip it and get some pillows and get a freaking giant ass bowl of fucking Lucky Charms or some peanut butter Captain Crunch or something. And it was always great sitting there, waking up, having your cereal, watching, stuff. I mean, some of the younger stuff I remember, like Johnny Quest cartoons, um, a lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff, Yogi Bear and the Yogi Yahooies, and they had like all those cartoon characters that would get together and they called them the Laugh Olympics. I don't know if you remember that. And they had like the Yogi Yahooies and the Really Rottens, which was all the evil guys. And I remember watching that every week. And man, some of the other good, of course, Scooby Doo. I mean, man, always watch Scooby Doo. That was one of my faves. Um, you know, uh, it was all, yeah, yeah, conjunction junction, yeah. Hooking up words and phrases and clauses, you know, and some of the other schoolhouse rocks too, like they had the verb, and Verb was this black muscle bound superhero that had his cape on and stuff, and they always had all the cool music to go with it, like Verb was like, you know, Verb, that's what's happening. I can take a noun and bend it. Verb, that's what's happening. Yeah, I can give commands like go get it, you know. Or what about um the one where they was unpack your adjectives, they had that one. Or yeah, Johnny Quest, man, Johnny Quest and Race, and another cartoon that I really used to like to watch a lot was Blue Falcon and Dog Wonder. You know what I mean? Blue Falcon and Dino Mutt, the robot dog that was always fucking up and getting shit all messed up. And, he was the superhero that was always fighting the crimesters and everything. And, hey, what's up, Guns and Water? Glad you could make it, buddy. Uh, caught your video this week. I sent Guns a little care package from him winning the show, a few weeks ago, and he put a good video out on his channel. You might want to check it out, and you guys can see all the stuff that I sent him. He got some good sticks, and luckily it was a bunch of stuff that he hadn't never smoked before. So I think I did pretty good on that. Oh yeah, Bobby. Space Ghosts. He was badass, and he had those power bracelets with those buttons on it that would do different shit and everything. And yeah, I love me some Space Ghosts, man. Uh, Probably one of my couple of my other favorites though was like Underdog. You know what I mean? And that was kind of weird because that he was like, the only superhero cartoon that did drugs. You know what I mean? Because he would like need his superpowers, and he need to be able to fly, and he'd need to do all that crap, and he had that ring that he would pop open, and he'd pop a pill. He'd pop a pill for his superpower and shit. You remember that? Um, really loved that one, but probably one of my all-time favorites, man, was Hong Kong Phooey. Uh, Hong Kong Phooey was my jam. I mean, um, it was Henry, the mild-mannered janitor. He worked at the police station and shit, but he was a dog that was he was a janitor, and he had that cat named Spot. And he'd have his Hong Kong Book of Kung Fu, that would always, he could always open that up, and it always help him get out of whatever trouble and shit that he was in, or whoop up on some motherfuckers and stuff. And that was really, really good. Um, you know, yeah, dude. And Captain Caveman, Captain Caveman, and the Teen Angels. And he was this little furry dude, and he always had shit under his fur, and he had this club that would open up on the end that would have like a little prehistoric bird with a lantern that he could see or whatever, and he was always pulling like refrigerators out of his shit, and he'd be like looking for stuff, and he'd unpile all this crazy shit. And man, it was I really liked watching that one. And right on. Yeah, and some of those got some pretty decent age on them already. Been sitting for a minute, but just let them acclimate, and they should be pretty good. Um, and another one that was really great to watch on Saturday morning was the Justice League and the Super Friends. And it had all Batman and Robin and Superman and Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and the League of Doom. They had all the bad guys in it and shit. Like Solomon Grundy. you know and Ultraman. Yeah. Oh shit, dude, that's crazy. But I love watching all that stuff, man. But it's just, the older I get, I'll just be sitting around, and now that's going way back, man. Yeah, Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles, uh, or another one that goes back to the day was like Speed Buggy. You remember Speed Buggy was like this little fucking Baja dune buggy and shit that was alive and fuck it. Oh dude, that was a good cartoon too, man. I really really love that fucking show. And a lot of the commercials, like I don't know if you remember this one, but it was like it was a Calgon commercial. And this lady goes into this the she goes into this dry cleaning place, with these clothes and everything, and she was talking about how you get all these stains out of here and everything, and he was like, ancient Chinese secret, and then the wife back in the back was like, we need more Calgon. And then that lady was like, ancient Chinese secret, huh? Just some shit that she could buy over the counter. Um, just all these commercials. In fact, so where I got the name, uh, Old Fogey Stogies, okay? Uh, Back in the 70s, the very first carpet deodorizer powder that they used to have, it was called Carpet Fresh. And I remember we'd spray that shit all over the orange pile shag and rug rake that shit in there and then leave it for a while and suck it up with the vacuum, and it would make the house smell good and stuff. But that commercial, it was telling about some of the smells and the stuff that it would cover up, and it was like the dog and the this and the stinky food and everything. And then there was a segment that this old man sitting there and he just puffing on a cigar and blowing out all this hella smoke, blowing smoke at you. And he was called the Old Fogies Stogies. So that's where I got the name for that. And I remembered that. And when I was trying to come up with this channel and what name I wanted to use for that, that popped into my head from, the 70s, man. And I was like, yeah, the Old Fogies Stogies. That's going to be the perfect name for my channel. And that's where I got it from. You know what I mean? Was from a fucking Carpet Fresh commercial from when I was about 4 years old. you know, I remember using that shit too, and I can still smell what that original Carpet Fresh shit smells like today. You know, yeah, Speed Buggy was cool. I really really dug Speed Buggy, and then like Plastic Man. The stretchy dude that had the jet and the chick and the monkey, and Plastic Man was a cool one. But and some of the I know it is. It's totally bizarre the things that stick in your heads, and that's just kind of where I was gonna go tonight. Was just because I've just had this rush of uh, memories flood me this last week or so for some reason, and I don't know why. And I keep hearing all these things in my head, and like old board games and stuff, uh, Connect Four and Toss Across and the Soul Survivor. Who remembers that game, the Soul Survivor? And it was Vincent Price uh, his voice that they used, and it was this game that just had a bunch of marbles and shit, and everybody had these little pull sticks, and you'd take a turn, and you would pull, your stick, and if somebody's marble fell, then it was next guy's turn, and everybody would keep doing that until there was one marble left on the board, and that was the sole survivor. But I can still, oh yeah, man, Icebreaker. That was a game that had a bunch of plastic pieces that looked like ice and these little hammers, and you would freaking, try to pop one out and pop one out, and not have them all fall, you know, and shit. They had all kind. Remember Mousetrap? Mousetrap was this crazy. Yeah, don't break the ice. Yeah, that's it. And Mousetrap had this crazy thing, and it was a board game, and it had all this intricate shit on it that would move and crank, and this, that, and another. And the objective of the game was to trap the mouse, and if you got to a certain point and did a certain something, and the mouse was in the right spot, you cranked the handle, and trap went down and trapped him, then you won. So that was a pretty cool game. I remember that. And then we had cool shit like, Lincoln Logs and Tinker Toys and Erector sets. Um, they had like all these little freaking metal pieces and little fucking bolts and nuts and struts and all this little shit that you could build all these. I remember buying this Erector set that was the Moon Rover, and you could put together a little Moon Rover toy and shit, and that was I mean, we just had cool ass toys. You know what I mean? Really cool. Um, you know, anybody remember the old water weenies? That was like this stretchy tube thing that you'd go fill up on the garden hose, and it would just fill up super tight, full of water. And then you just go around spraying everybody with it like it was, like a freaking water bazooka and shit. Those were cool. And who remembers trackball? You remember trackball? So trackball was this game that had these rackets, and they had a handle, but then they were kind of curved like almost like a highlight pallet, and you'd throw the ball, and that thing would put a spin on the ball, and it would like go way out and around and come back, or go way up and come down, and you catch them. Um, oh, what was that? Wow. Speaking of melting things with salt, man, you remember pouring salt on slugs and watching them fucking, you know, pouring salt on the slugs and watching them just fucking melt in front of your eyes and shit. Or taking magnifying glasses and burning the fuck out of crickets and grasshoppers and shit like that. Oh my God. We kept ourselves entertained. We really did. We didn't have phones, and we didn't really have video games yet or any of that kind of stuff. So a lot of the games and shit that they used to have was stuff that would, have to spark your imagination. You'd have to use your imagination, to actually play with it and have fun with it. But I mean, shit, man. And we had a lot of like 12-inch action figures like G.I. Joes. And G.I. Joe was cool, man. G.I. Joe always had all these cool outfits that you could buy where he was like, have like flamethrowers, and he was like in the fucking Arctic, or he was had this amphicat that like you're going to dig up the mummy's tomb, and had all these cars and held giant helicopters, and had this freaking submarine that was called the Sea Wolf, and you could put GI Joe in it and like set him in the bathtub or put him in a swimming pool and pump it, and it would actually submerge. Um, it was pretty cool, and and Joe, some of them they'd have like a chatty Cathy string where you'd pull it and Joe would say something or do something like that. Um, and he had like the real afro hair, like real curly afro hair that was pretty badass. Um, yeah, yo, hell, we used to, you know, um, like blow up army men too. The little, remember all the army men, the little green army men and shit. We'd put firecrackers between their legs and blow shit out of them, and do stuff like that. That was fun, you know. And one of the coolest, like, action figure ones. Oh yeah. Hey, welcome, Todd. Everybody say hey to Todd. Hey, brother, how'd the surgery go? Everything go okay? You doing good? Did they get you up and moonwalking right away? Yeah. Yeah, the SSPs, they had this big wheel in them and this tooth thing with a T on it, and you'd roll it down in there and you'd pull it, and they'd just be like, and you'd set them down and they'd take off. Or the fucking Evil Knievel. This Evil Knievel doll with the motorcycle, and you'd put him on there and crank him up, and he would like jump and do all this crazy stuff. It was like, yeah, that was some pretty cool stuff, man. Those toys were awesome. And I remember like the little TTPs that they had that was like with air. They had little motorcycles that you'd pump up this air thing, and they would go and jump and do all that shit. And well, that's good, man. I've been saying some prayers for you, brother. Just I know it's got to be a rough thing, but a necessary thing. You know what I mean? And we all ain't getting no younger. Shit starts breaking down. Shit starts getting crazy. And healthcare issues at our age and things like that are an inevitability. You know. Man, so tonight I'm sipping on a Sunset Sarsaparilla by Jones Soda Company. And I got these at Costco. This is actually like, I don't know if you guys have ever played the Fallout video game or not, but it's kind of like based off of the Fallout game. This is really good though. Sarsaparillas, it's basically what root beer was before anything. I mean, it was, sarsaparilla was like one of the first sody pops. And I like it because it's got a little bit less sweetness to it than a root beer. You know what I mean? But I'm glad you got through it. I'm glad you got that thing replaced, and you're on the mends. Hopefully they gave you some good meds to, get you through all the post surgery crap, that you got to go through with that. You smoking anything tonight, Todd, or no? Man, I'm really digging this deep blue. This some bitch is it's good. Yeah, I've been drinking sarsaparilla ever since I was a little kid. A lot of people don't even know what it is. But it's good to find some, and there's a lot of craft pop makers that still make, uh, sarsaparilla, you know, and they call it sarsaparilla because it's basically, the taste and everything that you get from sarsaparilla and root beer is from sassafras root, you know, and this has a good sassafras flavor to it, but it's not sickening sweet, you know. Well wishes for you there from Guns. Time they put me under to the time he was home was just 5 hours. Right on. Oh man, that's right. You said you were gonna have to stop for quite a minute, but hey, think of all the good cigars that you're gonna, find between now and then that you're gonna get to try for the first time, or something that you got that you're gonna throw a little extra age on it before you smoke it. Should be then that first one after you've had to wait. You know what I mean? That's gonna be a special one. You know. Oh yeah, sassafras cough drops. You know, they uh they weren't really sweet though. They had kind of a really pungent flavor to them, didn't they, Bobby? And another thing, I remember my grandfather Terry. Um, he had these little things, uh, because he used to go out, when he closed his barber shop down, back in the 40s and the 50s, he'd go out and club up with some of his guys, and they would go to bars and drink. And to cover up the alcohol on their breath, they had these little things that were called sin. And there were these little concentrated little black licorice fucking things that were just nasty. I mean, I remember trying some of those, and they were fucking just sickening, man. You know what I mean? I'm like, how in the hell did you even eat that shit? Well, of course, yes, yeah. Still gonna order sticks. There's still stuff coming down the pipe. There's still a lot of that, this year's PCA crap that's coming out, and um, everybody's been getting their Opus drops, and rare pink blacks are out, and I've been getting a lot of Opus stuff, and just new cigars and new releases. I'm kind of looking forward to trying that Espinosa 601 20th anniversary. I think that's going to be a good stick. I'm going to pick some of those up next week at Cassie's joint, and try some of those. And this, I can't say enough good things about this. This was well worth the wait. And I got a 6 pack of these, and then Cassie's got some coming to the shop. So I may just go ahead and have to pull the trigger on a box of these. Birch beer. Never had that. What's that like? You know, is it alcoholic or is it non-alcoholic? 3 years on my new knees, and it's been fantastic. Right on. Yeah, the fight that we have against gravity and that constant pull against our bodies the older we get, man. The cartilage wears it. My wife, she needs a knee replacement. She's been fighting that. We're trying to get her lined out to get a knee replacement, and it's kind of crazy. You got the warheads. Right on. You'll have to let me know how that is. Okay. Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania Amish area, sody pop. Right on. Yeah, I've never heard of that, Todd. I don't know. I have to, is that something that they make, or is there like a craft producer that puts that out? Man, and another toy that went along with a TV show that just hit my head that I loved to play with was the fucking $6 Million Man. Now that was a fucking show. That was like pre Star Wars, some of the first like cyborg shit that anybody ever saw. Steve Austin. Yeah. He was an astronaut and crashed and almost died, and we can rebuild him. We have the technology to build the world's first bionic man. you know, and man, I love that show. I love the Bionic Woman. I love the Bionic Sasquatch. All the shit that was all about. But that toy like had like rubber skin that you could like roll up, and then it had these little plastic things in his arms and in his legs and shit that was like looked like circuitries. It was like bionics. And then he also had a bionic eye that you could like hold him up and you could look through his eye. It's like he had a bionic eye. And then you could turn his head and lock it, and he had a button in his back, and he came with like this engine block with a handle on it, and you could freaking push that button, and he just you know lift up the fucking engine block and shit, man. That was cool, man. Yeah, that rocket ship that he came in, yeah, that was cool. I mean, that was a great toy. Came in this red jumpsuit with these sneakers and everything, and yeah, that was a good one. Transformers, yeah, some of the first ones, and like you remember like the Micronauts, the little robot dudes, the little bitty guys that had all the little weird little trucks and planes and shit like that. Right on. Oh yeah. Yeah, and they had Oscar Goldman, who he was like the one that ran the whole program, and he had this little briefcase that like you could open it up, but it was like a secret code. You open it up a certain way and you could get in it and you could look in there. But if you opened it wrong, then the briefcase blew up and it looked like it was all blown all to hell and everything. Yeah. Oscar Goldman with the exploding briefcase. That was killer, man. Yeah, he had a hole go all the way through one of his eyes, and you could actually look through his head and see, and it would kind of magnify just a little bit because his bionic eye, he could like see, for a mile away and bring stuff in. Basically, what a iPhone 17 will do now. you know, he had an iPhone 17 camera in his eye back in the 70s. you know, that was pretty crazy. Another thing uh, that I liked. Had another action figure that was called Big Jim. I don't know if you remember that. And he kind of had an action thing like that. He had a button in his back, and he'd like have like an axe, and he'd like had this piece of wood that he could swing on and chop an axe in half, and had like this camp set up with a campfire and a boat and a RV and all that. Um, yeah, Big Jim was cool. And but earlier on, before a lot of that shit came, who remembers all the Johnny West dolls? you know. Johnny West was this cowboy series of these big giant action figures, and you had Johnny West, and you'd have all these big horses and wagons and shit, and like covered wagons, these big giant fucking toys. And I remember one of the coolest ones on the Johnny West thing. It had like General Custer, you know, and he had like a sword and all that shit. And but the evil guy, the bad guy, his name was Sam Cobra, and he had a gun belt that had a little derringer in the belt buckle that would pull out, and you could pull it out, and it was like a hidden derringer and shit. You guys remember the Johnny West toys? Those were fucking cool as shit, man. Or the little oh, there you go. Roy Rogers and the Lone Ranger. Yeah, they kind of had the same thing. Lone Ranger was a big old dude, and you know, and Tonto, and they had big horses. You know, had Silver and you know, the big horses and stuff for those toys. You know, and the little like yeah, we had a lot of like when I was really young, we had like a lot of little metal toys and shit. You know, little hard, you know, cast metal toys that would like pedal around or do something, or you know, those was like stuff that you know, like you know, my older cousins, or you know, something that you know, some lot older kids had. You know, someone said GI Joe was a doll. Yeah, he wasn't no doll. He was an action figure, man. You know what I mean? It wasn't nothing about doll. You know, and you know, the dolls was like my sister played with dolls. You know, she had remember Rub a Dub Dolly. You know, talk about shit stuck in your head. You know, Rub a Dub Dolly, soft pretty dolly, playing in the bathtub with you, 'cause taking a bath can be lots of fun. With Rub a Dub Dolly, there's more fun than one. Oh my God. Yeah. See, shit that just sticks in your head, man. Yeah, man. The OG, you know, like the dump trucks. You know, man, we used to ride our dump trucks, our Tonka trucks down the driveway and shit. We'd sit on the damn things and ride down the driveway. They were just built like a tank, you know, and they had, I remember having like road graders and freaking, you know, backhoes and all that kind of stuff. Earth movers, you know. The Shogun robot. Wow, now I hadn't thought about that in a minute. Yeah, there was quite a few like robot toys and stuff, you know. Trying to remember that TV show where the kid wasn't it Johnny Sacco, where he had the big giant fucking robot that would fly around and he could control him and shit, and it was like this huge ass robot, you know. Yep, the Tonkas. Yeah, we don't do no dolls, man. You know. Now we might take our action figures and go, you know, uh, cut the hair off of some dolls or whatever. You know. God, I remember my sister had so many dolls, and had like paper dolls. Remember those? They had those paper dolls where you'd like get the doll and then have all these sheets that had all kind of different clothes on them and shit, and have all these tabs, and you know, you could put all these clothes and dress them up and do all that. She had all that shit, man. you know. And just little little slogans and little things that would just, stick in your head from, commercials and shit, and even when we got a little older, it was like, "Where's the beef?" I remember the old "Where's the beef" lady from fucking the Wendy's commercials and shit, Oh, it always has some kind of something that would fucking stick in your head. And another one that I was thinking about too, I don't know if you guys remember, on Saturday mornings they had that that timer guy, and he had a couple of different ones, but the one was you know, um, the hunk of cheese. Remember that? As they would talk to you about snacks and eating snacks and shit, and it was time for timer, and how'd that go? It was like when my get up and go has got up and went, I hanker for a hunk of cheese. When my 10-gallon hat's a feeling 5-gallon flat, I hanker for a hunk of cheese. What the hell? That was that, yeah. And then he had another one where he like taught you how to make like little pops or orange pops with fucking ice trays and plastic. Carefully poke the toothpicks through the plastic. You remember that? Oh, that sucks, man. Yeah. The and those those were so freaking awesome. I mean, you just couldn't beat those up, man. Could not beat them up. Yeah, time to make the donuts. I already made the donuts. The Dunkin' Donut guy. Oh yeah, all the strawberry shortcakes. Yeah, they did. They smelled like strawberries too, didn't they, Todd? And oh fuck, you remember Shrinky Dinks? Shrinky Dinks was those little plastic things that you could like color them. They were like plastic sheets and little figures that you'd like cut these little dudes out and you'd color them and you'd put them in the oven and then they would like shrink and shit. You remember the Shrinky Dinks? Yeah. The hunk of cheese guy. Yeah. Yeah, that stuck in my head for eons, I still remember that. Or what about the old fucking, remember Yuck Mouth? They call me Yuck Mouth 'cause I won't brush. Oh, I like my teeth like this. They call me Yuck Mouth. Oh, I won't brush. How's about a little kiss? Got some beef in my teeth, got some chicken too. Ow, that's a cavity. Hey, that's new. And if you don't brush your teeth, then I guess you too can be a yuck mouth. Don't be a yuck mouth. I remember that one. Holy shit, man. Stuck in my fucking head, you know. Just pull it out, just this flood of stuff that's just in the file drawers. Yeah, Shrinky Dinks. Yeah, now getting into the big stuff, man. Big Wheel was awesome. Big Wheels. How if there wasn't somebody who flattened a damn wheel on a big wheel and clunked that some bitch around the neighborhood, you wasn't riding it right. You wasn't skidding it right. Had the big ass wheels, and hey, y'all's welcome, man. Glad you could make it, buddy. And Yeah, and the green machines, they had the handles like this, and the back wheels would turn. Now, if you had a, if you had a big wheel, that was okay. But if you had a green machine, you was the shit, because not a lot of kids as parents would buy them the green machine. It was a lot more expensive. But that thing, you could whoop that around and just fucking slide out and do all kinds of shit. And yeah, yeah, no brakes, and the only way you stop is just step on, just quit pedaling and just slide, and you wear flat spots on that fucking big ass wheel, you know. Yeah, lawn man, I remember. So I had a kid that we was playing the shit with the lawn jarts, and he actually got under one and freaking it went right in his fucking head, dude. It went right in his head, and I remember screaming for his mother, and she come out and freaking they had to tape that son of a bitch to his head. And to this day, he's still got the X-rays of his little head with that freaking lawn jar, and it just perfectly went right in between the hemispheres of his brain, I guess. And but yeah, I mean, what kind of toy was that? You know what I mean? And the click clacks, those little fucking plastic balls that were on a string, you clack back and forth and shit, and you'd always hit yourself or whatever, you know. And yeah, the rich kids had the green machine, you know. And I actually had a green machine, but it was mine and my brother's. So I had to share it with my brother. But man, we tore up several freaking we tore up several fucking big wheels, and we'd make ramps and jump them and shit and fucking crash out and have to go to the doctor and get stitches in the head. And there wasn't no helmets and shit back then like they have kids wearing on the bicycles and the toys and shit like that, man. We was we were some daredevils, man. We was some evil Knievel juniors back in the day, just jumping shit and doing crazy shit with all them little bikes and stuff. It was awesome. But then we had simple shit. We had hula hoops, and we had, you remember the kick and goes. The kick and goes were made by Honda. They were actually made by Honda, and it was just like a scooter thing like they got now, but it had a little lever on the back of it, and you just kick it, and it had a little chain, and it would drive the rear wheel, and it would just ratchet, and you just kick that some bitch, and it would go and go and go. Had me a kick and go, and oh, there we go. Hippity hop. Spider Man hippity hop. So that was just like a big ass rubber ball with a round ring on it that you'd hold on to, and you just bounce on that sumbitch and hop all over the place. The old hippity hop, man. You know? Mm hmm. Yeah. Not too many people, knew what the old hippity hop was. And yeah, pogo sticks, just a damn thing on a pole with a spring, and you just jump up and down and jump up and down and jump up and down. Try not to fall over and kill yourself on it. And you just wear out, man. You got to a point where you could jump on the pogo stick forever. But it was like you just run out of gas because it just took so much shit out of you. You know. Oh man, yeah, blowing up the inner tube on your bike because you didn't know, nobody taught you how to use that high pressure air line that was at the gas station. It wasn't like no pump where you really couldn't blow it up. But yeah, man, and our bikes. I mean, we'd have like Frankenstein bikes and shit. We'd get parts from other kids in the neighborhood, or somebody's got a frame and somebody's got some wheels or whatever. You know, I remember, one of the first freaking bikes that I ever really, really wanted, man, was the Schwinn BMX, man. And I had like the freaking the Stingray that had the banana seat and the 5-speed shifter down low with the big old ape hangers and the little tassels hanging off of it. And we'd put playing cards in our spokes with clothespins, and it sounded like it was a motorcycle and shit. Made our bikes sound like motorcycles. And then later on they had this thing that you could put on your handlebar, and when you twist it, it's it'd rev up like a motorcycle. You know, but man, we would tear some bikes up, and some skateboards too. Some good old remember the old Makahas, those old yellow plastic skateboards and shit. You know, yeah. Yep, man, and we'd wear out a whole deck of cards in a day, because we was evil Knievel. We had our motorcycle, and it really made that some bitch sound loud, and it worked too. You know what I mean? To us, it was a motorcycle, with the damn cards in the spokes. And then they had if you had the headlight that went on your deal, that went down to the little fucking transformer that would pop in on your tire, and a little generator, and it would generate enough juice to light the bulb in your headlight so you could see when you were riding at night. Of course, sometimes you'd have to be careful because if your ass wasn't home by dark, it was beat. you know. But sometimes, moms or dad would let you stay out a little bit. Hey, I want to go ride my bike with my headlight. Those were, those were pretty cool little additions. Now they got all that rechargeable LED shit and stuff that you could see like better than cars on some of that stuff. But yeah, we'd Frankenstein some bikes and build some ramps, and try to jump over stuff and see how we'd set it up like Evil Knievel, like everybody bring out their Tonka trucks, and we'd line up dump trucks and shit and try to jump them, see if we could Evil Knievel over them. And I remember one time I was gonna break the record, man. I was gonna do it. We had a little hill that came down into our cul-de-sac, and we had all the jumps and everything set up in the middle. And man, I didn't get enough lift on it, and I came in and I just caught my front tire on the landing ramp and tumbled overhead. And I remember my hand grip on my handlebar was so wore out, from sliding around and shit, that handlebar poked me in my head, and I had to go get stitches. Had to go to the emergency room and get some stitches. Or one time I was riding a wheelie on my bike and went off a curb, and when it chunked down, I guess I didn't have the front wheel tight on it, and the fucking front wheel came off, and fucking down went the bike. The forks dug in, and then I had those rat trap pedals, and I ripped a big old chunk of skin out of my chest. I've still got this giant ass scar to this day from where it just ripped my skin open on my chest from my rat trap pedals from my tire coming off during a wheelie. Yeah. But we was tough, man. You might cry a little bit, but you'd shake it off. And I mean, you didn't want to look like no pud in front of the boys and shit. So you just, man up and, drag your bleeding ass back to the house and have mom take you to go see Dr. Gunn and shit. Oh my God. Well, it's been kind of a crazy week this week. I We had a big meeting on Monday, and you guys know that I've been working like mad. I've been working hella hours trying to get a lot of stuff fixed up on our houses for our clients and everything. And we had a big meeting on Monday, and we just found out that our company is selling out to a big outfit out of North Carolina, and they're in like 5 states. I think they're in like Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Tennessee. They're wanting to branch out into Missouri, and so we just found out this week that my company is getting ready to sell. So everybody's been kind of tripping out on that this week, and it's just been fairly stressful. But thank God I've had some good sticks to relax and chill and focus with, And then this morning, my sister-in-law, my sister's sister that lives with us, and we take care of her. She's developmentally handicapped, and she's got a bunch of health issues and stuff. And she was up all night, kept us up all night. She was crying and kept falling down, and we ended up having to call EMS to come get her and take her to the hospital today. And I ain't had much sleep for that. So Libby's back in the hospital, and we gotta figure out some kind of plan because she's just getting to the point where we can't really safely take care of her at home anymore. So we got to figure all that stuff out for her, and it's just tearing my wife up. She's been taking care of her parents and her sister and everything for ever since I've been with her, 30 plus years. And we're getting to the age where it's just kind of like we just can't do it anymore. I kind of feel bad about wanting to try to find some kind of a long-term care plan for her, but every state's different. Everything is kind of whatever. And but we got to get her crap figured out this week. Dad gave me a big hammer and a nail to play with. I wanted to drive it with one hit. Oh yeah, right on my thumbnail. Bam. Yeah, who ain't had a solid black thumbnail from a hammer? Yeah. Yeah, kind of like Major Pain, where you know break the dude's finger, and he's like, well, you ain't thinking about that no more, is you? My finger. Oh man. And dude, cap guns. You know, we had, I mean, guns was it. Cap guns. Had the little rolls of caps, and the hammer brought that to me. I mean, who didn't take a whole fucking roll of caps and set it down and smack that with a fucking hammer and just boom? Your ears would be ringing for fucking an hour. You know, had the cap guns, and then had the little plastic ones with the rings, like the little revolvers. And the little guns, the little Star Trek guns that shot the little plastic discs out, and um, oh my God. Oh, brother, it went well. I mean, everybody was just like, "Holy crap!" So I made the smoked chickens. I made smoked barbecue meatloaf with some Wagyu beef. Made some homemade coleslaw, made my Babylon beans, and we had, cheese and crackers and homemade pickles and freaking naan bread and spinach artichoke dip and some little brownie bites. And man, everybody just tore that shit up. And it was, the new people that came in for the new company was like, wow, this is really good. fact, one of the guys, he was, because I was like, man, you got to try those beans. I said, those beans are really their own food group, you know? And, because shit, I smoked up a whole slab of ribs, and took all the meat off of that just to put in as part of the meat for the beans. And after he got done eating that, and he's like, yeah, he's like, you was right about those beans, man. He's like, those are the best I've ever had. And I was like, wow, that's cool, man. So yeah, the lunch went good, other than the meeting and the news, and hopefully everything's gonna go good with that. And I'm not really tripping on it. I mean, we've still got 3 to 6 months before they actually close on the company, and my boss is gonna continue to consult and run the business until they take over and everything. But yeah, it is, dude. It is, Guns. It's tough trying to take care of a loved one at home. When you're not in the best of shape yourself, and you want to give them the best care that you can. You don't want to send them off somewhere. You don't want to ship them off somewhere. You want to take care of them, but sometimes it just gets to a point where it's like, man, I'm not trained, I'm not equipped, and I can't. Brenda and I work, so it's like, if Libby's to fall in the house and there's nobody here, she's going to be laying on the floor, and we can't have that kind of stuff. So we gotta figure something out, with that. Hey, look who's here. What's up, young? Happy Friday to you, brother. EP Creole Encore, or the Trinidad Espiritu number 3. Well, I'm smoking the EP Carrillo Deep Blue tonight, so I'm gonna say save that Trinidad for a special occasion, and smoke your Encore, man. That's a good stick. Join me with a EP Carrillo, buddy. Well, that's cool. So yeah, you got more time. You got more time to devote to her and her care and everything, which is great. And but unfortunately, Brenda and I don't. And in fact, Brenda stayed home and watched her for a while, but with smiling prices the way everything is nowadays, she had to go back. She's always had some clients that she cleans for. She had cleaning business, and she would clean a business and clean some people's houses and stuff. Nothing too heavy because she had to spend a lot of time caring for Libby. And but it just was like, babe, I need some help. You gotta get back to work, and you gotta help me out with some of these bills, and all these gas prices and food prices and everything that's just going sky high. We just can't make it, without getting some help. And then we don't have, that extra care, that time for her to care for her sister. So at least you have that, and she's blessed to have you there to be, taking care of her, man. Yeah, light that baby up, man. I like that. I like that Encore Majestic. I love that that's a box press. It's just a great smoke. Not too, you know, not too bold. It's got a really good flavor to it. Really good blend, complex. And that is the cigar that turned me on to being such a box press lover, was that Encore Majestic and the Encore Celestial. Shave my head with foam and a razor blade if you invite me on the stream. You gonna do it, huh? Well, come on with it, man. I'll get something set up with you, man. You have to send me put a comment on this live stream after it's done, or send me an email to oldfogiesstogies at gmail, and we'll see if we can't make that happen, and get you on there, get you shaving, boy. You're gonna have to find you an old straight razor, you know. Yeah. Oh man, who cut the shit out of himself with Grandpa's straight razor? You know, remember them? You know, my grandpa was a barber. You know, so he had all kinds of badass straight razors and shit, and all the razor straps and all that and shit. In fact, after Grandpa died, my dad got all that stuff, and you know, the razor strap turned into a fucking whoopiner. You know, it's like, oh fuck, I don't need the bell. I got a razor strap, and I will waylay your ass with that motherfucker. And it was like, you know, leather, and then it had like this woven shit in the middle of it, and another piece. So it was like three layers, and you know, yeah, yeah. Some of them do, some of them don't. And you know, one of my favorite Vitolas of a box press is that fucking you know, the Fuente Sharks, the Don Carlos Sharks, because it's, you know, it's like a, you know, it's like a pyramid top with a square box press. It's not the rectangular box press, it's the square box press. And I love smoking those, man. I really love. In fact, I've probably got about a half a box of the Don Carlos Sharks left, and I really enjoy. Marvin turned me on to smoking those, and that's a damn good cigar. Right on. So, Young, what's some of the stuff that you remember from when you was a kid, man? Some of the, like, you know, cartoons and shows you used to watch and games you used to play with and stuff. What you know, what in your generation was the things that stick out in your mind and things that you know, still remember from your childhood, you know, that's kind of stuck in the old noodle. You know, and another thing that was simple and easy, kites. You know, you go buy a kite. You know, remember the big old just triangle kite that had the big old eyes on it and shit, and you know, you'd fly that some bitch and make a big old kite tail. And or the box kites. You know, we would build them. You know, we'd build these big old box kites and fly them and shit. You know, love flying kites when I was young. Right on, Liu Kang. I loved playing me some Mortal Kombat too, man. That was a great game. Yeah. Of course, we had like you know, we had like pinball games, you know, before any of that shit came. We played pinball, and we'd have like shooting galleries. You know, we'd have games that have like a little gun with BBs in it, and you'd fucking shoot targets and stuff. And that was always cool. You know, little you know, shooting games and shit. And BB guns, you know. And I remember probably when I was in about fourth grade that I took my fucking Daisy Red Ryder to school for show and tell. You know, I got a new fucking BB gun, and it was one of the nice ones that had the, you know, wood stock, and the you know, the wood grip on it and everything. And you know, I mean, shit, there ain't no way kid would be able to take a fucking BB gun to school nowadays. But it was just like nothing, you know. Took my BB gun to school for show and tell. But yeah, guns was always coolest, man. You know, and a lot of like, World War II stuff that, you'd have like a belt and a canteen, that you'd fill full of water and your cap and fucking, little like Tommy gun type guns, that you cock back and they just go tit, 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 really cool gun toys, And of course you had all the like the Star Trek phasers and the fucking the communicators and the tricorders and shit, all the Star Wars or Star Trek toys, like that. And I mean, that was like such a thing. It was like, oh my god, a communicator. Well, that was a flip phone, you know. And then, the tricorder, the little computer that knew every fucking thing. Well, that's every cell phone that there is now. You have a tricorder in your pocket. Box kite. Oh, wow. Yeah, man, we took a lot of time, and that was something that we'd do together. We'd get with Dad and my brother, or maybe my cousin would come over, and we'd build this big ass box kite and shit, and glue it together and get the paper cut just right and get everything set. And yeah, the little army men, you'd set them up all over, like go out in a sandbox or something, and make all these little battle fields and plans, and they'd have all the little jeeps and the little tanks and little shit that you play with. And like I was saying, we'd put like firecrackers in between their legs and try to blow them up and shit. I love playing with some army men, man. Yep, yep. We watched a lot of wrestling, back in the day. That was always fun to watch. Some of those old, wrestlers, fucking Bulldog Bob Brown and, fucking Mr. Wonderful and, oh my God, you know. And God rest his soul, Hulk Hogan, who wasn't a Hulk Hogan fan? I used to love him and I loved Jimmy Superfly Snuka. I loved him. And and I always liked Rowdy Piper. Those are some of my favorites. But then the bad guys, the Iron Sheik. He'd always be interviewing with Mean Gene Okerlund, and he would call him Gene Min. What are you talking about, Gene Min? Him and Nikolai Volkov, and of course Andre the Giant. You know, and Bret Hart, and oh my God, dude, those were some fun times. I remember, yeah, sitting down watching that, having some popcorn, watching all the wrestling matches and shit. That was always fun. Oh yeah, those cocks, and they actually had a little gas motor in them, and you'd get them started and just had the two strings with the thing on it, and you'd pull it and they'd either come up and down, and you'd just circle them around till they ran out of fuel, man. Those were some expensive toys, but those were cool too. you know i uh I remember flying one of those. Those were pretty sweet. Or all the little balsa planes that had the rubber band propellers, and you'd fucking wind them up and shit and throw them, and they just go all over the fucking place. And you could get those cheap. They had, come in those little plastic bags, and you'd put them together real quick, and put the rubber band on it, and wind them up, and it's like paper airplane on crack. And shit, we made all kinds of paper airplanes too. You like Rick Rudd, right on. and they had the little remember the little electric helicopter that was called the Vertibird, where you'd have the little two handle controllers and it'd be on a thing and you could like fly it around and it had a hook on it and you could like pick dudes up or you could pick up cargo and fly it around and land it and put shit everywhere. The Vertibirds. And I used to have one like that. It was a biplane that you'd crank up and it would make the propeller go, and it was called Harry Canary. It was made by Mattel. And now some bitch you just fly all the way around your bedroom, and you could make it go up and down and fly around, but you had to hand crank it. You know, that was a cool toy. I remember that some bitch. The Young, how's that EP treating you? Pretty damn good. And then we had all the cool shit like slip and slides, you know. Remember the slip and slides? You go put those out on the lawn, hook the garden hose up to it, and just tear the shit out of the lawn. You just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and just slip on it, some bitch. And we'd always go in the kitchen and get mom's dish soap, and we'd squirt dish soap on that motherfucker because you go like twice as fast and shit, you know. And it would always piss dad off because you get that soap all over the yard and it would fuck his grass up and then he was pissed at you, you know. Playing checkers, yeah. Yeah, I played a lot of checkers. Used to play a lot of chess too when I was a kid. We had this really cool Civil War chess set that was cool. I remember playing with my brother and my grandpa quite a bit. That was always fun. But most of the time when I was hanging out with my grandpa, we were out on the back porch and he'd be chewing his cigars. He'd chew a cigar like it was chewing tobacco and be sitting out there on the back porch and he'd let me shoot crows off of his rhubarb plants and shit. Yeah. I remember that. You know, shooting the birds out of the fucking rhubarb. Grandma made some really good like rhubarb preserves and rhubarb pie that tasted just like tasted pretty much like strawberry pie. You know, it was fucking good, man. I don't know. You don't see too much rhubarb around nowadays. You know, that's for sure. So another cool thing. Um, Made a water slide on the riverbank. Oh wow, wow! I bet that was fun, dude. Yeah, you probably maybe caught like a little nail sticking up or something and cut your ass open or whatever. But I bet that was fun. Probably burnt the shit out of your ass if it got really hot. You know, remember like sitting on a old metal slide at the playground and burning your ass because it's been cooking in the sun all day. You know, damn. Man, I had another big milestone this week. So, uh, 10 weeks sober this week. Been really good. And so I've been drinking a lot more coffee, you know. But so I've been saving up all the money that I normally would spend uh, on whiskey and actually went out today and bought me one of these. This is the newest Ninja Auto Barista. You know, they call it a fucking like a like a super machine. I mean, you just it's got its own beans in the top, you know, and it's on built-in grinder, and it calibrates itself and weighs it, and you just put water in the side, and fucking you just hit the button for an espresso or a lungo or a freaking it's got like 13 in a bunch of cold coffees, and it's got a real like milk frother steam one with a like rotating thing in the bottom of it. It's a really nice machine, and I was like, man, that's cool. All the money that I just would have poured down my neck, you know, bought me a cool replacement for shit to pour down my neck. you know. But I was real stoked to get that thing today. I'm really glad to have it, and now I can and wake up in the morning and freaking just don't got to mess with like Nespresso pods or any of that bullshit, and I can just fucking you know just push the button and there it is, and I've got it dialed in, so it's doing the right pull, right extraction time. Got a great crema on it, tastes really good, and no more weighing out the beans and taking 5 fucking 6 minutes to fucking have your first cup of coffee in the morning. No kidding. Use river water. That's cool. Yeah, so just keep it going. Kind of like a slide at a swimming pool, just a water slide, just constant fucking flow of water to shoot you down that thing. Right on. Who's winning the game? So he put his legs over the side. Oh, I bet. I bet, 'cause he probably didn't have those edges tucked down very good and just slide down that some bitch like a freaking, razor blade or something. Damn. Probably got some stitches off of that, eh? Yeah, I really love the EP stuff, man. This Deep Purple is fucking good. I definitely got to get me some more of these. I think they only made 2,500 boxes of these, and I definitely got to seriously get some more because 5 more ain't gonna do it. But like I said, Cassie's got some coming in, and I'll probably get another, 5 or 6, and that'll give me, a dozen, or get a baker's dozen, and age some and enjoy some. Shit, I need to get to smoking, more cigars. I got so many cigars that I bought a year and almost 2 years ago now. I mean, shit, I can't believe it, man. In October, it'll be 2 years since I started my cigar journey. And, I cannot believe, you know, how quick a couple of years has gone by and how many delicious and wonderful cigars that I have smoked in that time, and still have stuff that I bought that's in my humidor from when I first started my cigar journey that I haven't even touched yet. I really need to get in and start going through some of those. And they got a year, almost 2 years of age on them now. And I did get went to a local today and picked up a couple more number four Opus Oro Oscuros, and then he had a couple of boxes that he broke out of these 2023 Oliva Serie V Milanio little Perfectos. And I was like, is that really a 2023 release? And he's like, yeah, he just got to looking through some stuff. And I was like, well, shit, I got to get me some of those. Those definitely got got some good age on them already, so I'll probably smoke one of those tomorrow when I'm out working in the yard, probably. Yeah, they really do. And I've been trying to get more and more into uh smoking more of of AJ stuff. I've got some of the new worlds that I've not tried, and that uh what is it, the Decenio. I got a couple of those. I haven't tried those yet. And but a lot of the stuff of his that I've tried has been really, really good. Of course, he's one of the biggies in the industry. Oh yeah. Sound like Mork from Ork. Yeah, that was another good show from back in the day. You know, Mork and Mindy. In fact, I've still got, and you've probably seen it on my Humidor tour, I've still got a Mork and Mindy board game that's still sealed in the plastic and never been played. And I gotta figure out when I get the right group of people over here and shit. One of these days, I'm gonna bust that some bitch out and play fucking Mork and Mindy board game. That'll be pretty cool for sure. So everybody else having a good week? Everything going good? Work go good? Everybody looking forward to the weekend? Got any big plans with family or cookouts or any of that kind of stuff you're looking forward to? We got like 11 days before the first World Cup game at Arrowhead. In fact, it was funny. I was watching the news, my local Fox channel that's got all the hotties on it, man. you know. But anyway, they were talking about, be really careful, man, because they were afraid that, a lot with all these people coming in town and shit, that there's going to be all these like fucking human traffickers and shit coming in and taking people and kids and girls and shit, and just what to watch out for, telling people to watch out for these fucking creeps and shit, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, man? This is crazy. you know Went into the office today for the first time this year. Wow. Work mostly from home. I bet it was. I bet it was. That's, everybody's always like, young. They're always like, man, I'd love to have a work from home job and shit. But I bet it's pretty fucking hard to stay motivated to actually do your work when you're at home. I'd always be wanting to like jump out and do some shit, that I'm not supposed to be doing because I'm on the clock, So you really got to have some self control and some self discipline to have a stay at home job, right? And of course, Monday was my birthday. Had a really good, had the good lunch at work, and then smoked a couple of really good sticks. I smoked my first Opus Lost City. Um, Man, just dynamite. Never had one before. Just incredible, incredible, real unique Opus flavor profile that didn't really taste like any of the other Opuses I've ever had. Um, Thank you, Guns. Appreciate that. Got your grill working. I got the mice out of it. Cooked some hot dogs right on. Hamburgers. Hey, there you go. Yeah, I've got I've got one of those old PK grills, charcoal grills, the old aluminum PK. Had it forever, and man, that thing's one of the best fucking charcoal grills I ever had in my life. It's super lightweight and doesn't ever rust on you, and um, you know, kind of kind of crazy. Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah, you get that's it. You just gotta get the damn job done. You know, and but it does give you a little bit of leeway. It ain't like restroom break, boss. You don't have to ask me every time you gotta go take a piss. Just go. Uh, hey Enrique, what's up, brother? Just flew in from the Dominican, really. Got some Fuente Destino El Siglos. Oh man, straight from an awesome land. Well, that's cool, man. I bet that. How long were you there? Yeah, they're pretty. Seems like those lost cities, Bobby. They're a little hard to find. These are the first ones I ever found, and I got them from this cool vape shop that got like 9 boxes of them. In fact, I called the dude today and I was like, "Hey, do you still got some of those lost cities?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I guess he got a box of El Tributo 25ths and 2 boxes of the 20th anniversary Father and Sons that he just got in today. And I've been talking with him about doing a podcast with him, and he wants to put together a big show to do with him, and he's going to put together a bunch of sticks and merch and cutters and ashtrays and shit for giveaways. So I'll keep you guys in the loop on that because that'll be a hell of a show, and definitely definitely gotta keep you guys in the loop on that because he'll be giving away some really good stuff. Help promote his business and everything. Yeah, you insisted. Yeah, I'm gonna squirt this fluid on you and then flick this match at your little ass if you don't get the fuck out of there. you know. Uh. Oh wow, that's cool. Your boy's a ball player, huh? In a vape shop. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I think the deal with that is this vape shop is like, they're all kind of turning cigar humidors now, and they got a lot of buying power through a lot of these distributors and shit. And I think, like all these different stores all over everywhere, they're buying all this stuff up for their stores, but like the primo shit, because you gotta buy so much Fuente stuff and so much, Ashtons and so much this and that to to get the opuses, and so they buy, a lot of Fuente product for all their stores, and then they get all this Fuente stuff allocated to them, and they pretty much sell it all out of one location. Right on. Hey, what's going on, doctor? How was your golf game today, man? Did you have a good time? Looked like the weather was about perfect, and man, they had Had that had those fairways and shit looking pretty nice. Yeah, rise and grinds in the house. And I was just talking to everybody earlier about coming back on with you on Sunday. Really looking forward to that and continuing the camaraderie. And you guys go on his channel and check it out and put on there to notify you. It's going to be a good show. He's got a great topic picked out, and I'll let you guys just go on the web page or on the channel and kind of see what's going on with that. But really looking forward to that. I almost, after seeing your picture today, I had a little bit of extra time, and I almost went and got my clubs out and went down to Adams Point and just hit a bucket. But it was so muggy. It's been really rainy here in Kansas City, and the temperature was up in the 80s. And God, it was just like a sauna. It was like walking out into a freaking wet sauna, and I was just like, no, I'm not gonna do that today. Right on. I bet. You know, you've been through a lot, dude. You know, um, all that stuff that you do, and man, you're still cranking out hella uh content. Been watching all the contents coming out this week, some really good stuff. And I am smoking on the EP Carrillo Deep Blue. Get that some to focus. There we go. Yeah, that's the one that I've been waiting to come in. It's that LE that they just released, and I've been waiting to smoke one of these. And I was just telling everybody that I was at a local today, doctor, and I got they had some 2023 release Serie V Milanio Perfectos, and I bought a few of those today, and I can't. Hell, I might even smoke one of those with you Sunday. I know how much you like that. It does, it really does, and I'm looking forward to getting some more content out besides my live streams because I'm finally getting to the point where June 1st was our big deadline for getting a lot of the stuff done at work, and things are starting to slow down a little bit for me, and I'm going to have a lot more time to start putting out some more videos and doing some more content. Yeah, it is really good. And I mean, I see what they're talking about, man. It's just like, you know, you can really tell the flavor profile changes throughout the thirds, and it just, I'm into the to the last little bit of it now, and it's still really delicious, Definitely one of those that you want to have a few of them because it's that good of a smoke. A little bit lighter than that Battleborn blend that they came out with. It's more of a like medium full, but it's really tasty. Okay, cool. Yeah, Marvin turned me on to that Series V, and you know, I smoke a lot of those. I love that the Series V Figurado. That's my favorite Vitola of that. It's kind of almost like a Salamone, but it's a Figurado. I love it. It's good Vitola and just smokes so great. Really good. Sipping on my sarsaparilla. This is like root beer's grandpa and shit. you know, but it's good. And I'm not, with the extra punch and that extra sassafras flavor, I'm not drinking it as fast. Normally, I'd have like, if it was one of my 1919s, one of my sweet ones, it would just be like, holy shit, you know. I would have pounded that thing, and I'm still sipping on this bottle, you know. Now, Bobby, I've not tried the Lancero, and that's kind of funny because I love smoking Lanceros. You know, in fact, my Lancero locker is about full, and I actually, so this was cool. So one of the guys that I work with and I smoke at the lounge out in Lee Summit with, we go there after work a lot and smoke. Um, my boss went to him and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you $100, and I want you to go get Sean some cigars for his birthday." And so he knows that I'm kind of picky about what I like to smoke, you know. And he he called me and he's like, "You didn't hear this from me, but she gave me $100 to buy you some cigars. So what you want?" And I knew she didn't have any Opus stuff out, and I'd gotten a lot of the new stuff that she's actually put out, but I knew she had a box of Atabay Dioses. So I was like, "Man, get me two of those Dioses because they're like $47 a piece." And I was like, "Fuck, if I'm getting a couple free cigars, might as well get some good ones." And he's like, he was asking her dad that works there. His name's Wally. And he's like, "Oh, we don't have any of those." And I was like, "No, dude, go down here and look at this and look under that. This big white ass box says Diosis on it, Atabay." And I told him right where to go to get them. So I got a couple of Atabays from the boss this week for my birthday. So that was really cool, you know. And right on 2016s. That I bet that's a good smoke. Enrique, how long you been smoking cigars, brother? How long you been in the game and enjoying it? Yeah, because they like, you know, they almost have to pick out their very best rollers to, you know, to roll those crazy vitolas, and you know they're constructed really well. They've been doing it for decades, and you know they have their best rollers roll those weird vitolas. You know, wow, 35 years. That's awesome, man. I can't imagine uh, some of the great sticks that you've gotten to enjoy in 3.5 decades. Oh my God. So I know it'd be hard to pin it down to one, but in the 35 years that you've smoked cigars, what would you say are your top three that you've ever smoked in 35 years? Think about it for a minute. Well, you know, they pretty much all, you know, all the regular, just, you know, the Atabay Costa Rican Puros coming in the white boxes, and they've got the different Vitolas. Um, you know, the ones that I like the best, of course, is that Diosis, which is that big, you know, double Corona, and then the Sabios, which is more like a Robusto, you know. But they've got like a Perfecto, I can't remember. Um, Marvin smoked a lot more of uh, the Atabays and different ones, and uh, you know, he's, of course, he's the one that turned me on to the Atabays, and ever since I've had those, it was like, oh my God, these are delicious, delectable. Something about that Costa Rican tobacco, just the difference in it, and you know, they're made so well and rolled so well and smoked so good. you know. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's probably got the the Castro connection down there, and probably had, a slew of really good Cuban cigars in his day, I would imagine, They got three sizes. Well, that's cool. Yeah, and that's kind of why I go with the big one, because I think like those Sabioses that she's just got the two in her shop, and not a lot of people are buying them, so I've been buying most of them. But it's like 40, it's like 44 for that little Robusto, and then it's like 47 for that big double Corona. So it's like, well, shit, that's twice the cigar for three more dollars, you know. Even if I don't smoke the whole damn thing, I'm still gonna get, more smoke out of it than one of them little shorties. So why not just go with the big one? Works out pretty good that way. But this one's still hanging on pretty good. I mean, shit, we're almost 2 hours into the show, and I'm still smoking on this. It's still tasting really good. You know, Old Ernesto. In fact, they just had I think Tuesday they had a big giveaway of the blues. Promoting that. And then of course it comes in that real pretty box, and it's got that medallion on a chain. Kind of like that Battleborn. I got a box of those, and those had like a EP Creole dog tag on a chain. You know, Definition War Guardian of the Farm. Now, I have not had that one. I've heard that's a really good cigar. El Septimo Empress of Sheba. I have not had. I haven't had many El Septimos either. I don't. I don't really. I don't think there's anybody in Kansas City that carries that brand. Pretty sure. Well, that's a good price, dude. That's decent. Like I said, I think I'm paying in the $40 range for them Atabase, but I'll pay it. It's not like I got 20 of them or anything, but I think I've got three of each Vitola, and I've got one of the. Nice, that'd be cool. Yeah, I got a little care package that I've been putting together for you that I'm gonna send out first of next week, Doctor. Yeah, I'm gonna send you one of these, and gonna get you one of the fiddleheads, and one of the purples, the EP Creole purples, and then I just got some of the it was like the Paul Grammarian. It's the Re- Reserva Exclusiva, the Grand Patellas. It's like the 7.5 by 40. I just got a 4 pack of those, so I'm really looking forward to trying that. I've only had one Paul Grammarian before, and I think it was one that was in one of the Cigars Unbanded packs one month, and it was really good. Yeah, see, we got a lot higher tobacco tax in Missouri for sure. But kind of like gasoline, no gas, no go. You know, if you're not willing to pay the price to put fuel in your car, I guess you're not driving to the grocery store, are you? Of course, hey, with Amazon and Walmart Plus, who the fuck needs to go to the grocery store anymore? You know what I mean? I try to utilize that as much as possible. You know, just need a few little things. I'm not gonna go drive and do that shit when I can have somebody deliver it to me within 3 hours or whatever. For $13 a month. Yeah. basically like a streaming service for groceries, you know. But and then of course, Marvin, I've got a couple of choice opuses that I'm gonna throw in your goodie bag and send out to you. I've really been lucking out on those. You know, like I said, I'm up over 100 opuses in my 25th anniversary humidor, and that some bitch is just crammed full. So I got to really start enjoying some of those and smoking some of those down. Just kind of one of those bucket list things. Because I remember, you know, when I first started getting into smoking cigars, and remember seeing some of the people talk about Opus X and Opus X this and Opus X that. Seeing that cool band with the X on it and shit. And I was like, man, I remember when I bought my first one, I think it was just a regular Opus Perfection number 4. And I was like, man, I got me a Opus. And, now I got a shit ton of them, all kinds of different flavors, but I think still pound for pound that 20th anniversary is hard to beat. I've got that in like, 4 different Vitolas. Of course, I like the God's Whisper the best. That cigar is just delicious. And that Power of the Dream is good, and that Father and Son is a good Vitola. And then what's the other one? Damn it, I can't remember. What is it? Let me look. The Believe. That's the 5 3/4 by 52. So that's a smaller one. But I do like that 20th anniversary, man. It's just delectable. Yeah, me too, Marvin. Me too. I really love those. Man, you know, and I uh, uh, was just talking with Mr. Cash about, you know, maybe at some point in the next year or so, that we could find a kind of a central spot, where we could all travel to and not have to spend a fortune, and get everybody together in person and smoke some cigars. And you know shit, I'll bring that whole fucking humidor with me. I'll wrap it up lovingly in bubble paper and stick it on the fucking carry-on bag, or whatever. you know um Man, I haven't tried them, but when I was in Wichita a couple of weeks ago, there was a place called the Cigar Chateau, and he had a full box, unopened box, and then he had another box that was about half full, and then he had one of the little coffin boxes that has the 3 packs, Bobby. And I was like, oh fuck, do I really want to do this? Because I mean, that's just such a good looking cigar, and it's got to be good, at $90 a stick. And I said, fuck it. I'd been working a bunch of overtime and had some cigar money in the piggy bank, and I bought a box of them. So I got a box of the societies, but then I want to leave them in there, and they're in my box. Haven't opened them yet. And I went ahead and bought one of the coffins too. So I got 3 Opus Societies that I'm gonna smoke on here soon. Really want to try it. Right on. Yeah, that was my thought. Was just um, I think he said he's had them for about a year, so I'll probably leave them age in the box for another year, and then that would be a good one. That it would be like, if we had an event where we got everybody together and shit, and we were all meeting up in person, crack that sumbitch open and everybody sit back and have a society together, and some good conversation and some good coffee and some good you know adult beverages for those of you that are partaking. In fact, I was going to ask you, Marvin, because I know we were talking about on your show last Sunday that you were looking for some different tequilas to try and stuff. Have you had any of the Fortaleza tequila? Um, Man, their Blanco's really good, but their Anejo, that Fortaleza Anejo is freaking insanely good, man. It's on back order. Hmm. Yeah, that would be great. You know what I mean? Just get everybody together. Pick some. I know. Uh, you know, Rise and Grinds in California. You're in Miami. I'm in Kansas City. Um, we got Pennsylvania. We got Southern Missouri, Oklahoma. You know, but it had to be kind of a destination place. Yeah, man. Bring those. In fact, I've got one of those coffin boxes with the Padron 60th in it. That's just sitting in the humidor. Really looking forward to trying that. That's got to be something good. The 50th is really good, but that 60th, I was really lucky to even be able to find one of those. Of course, Outlaw had them, and of course, I only bought one. I think, shit, I think it was like $80. It wasn't cheap. But it comes in that nice coffin box and everything. Yeah, that's right, man. The Seahawk fan. A cool story with the Seahawks, man. So I was at the Chiefs Seahawk game, where Dave Craig was still quarterbacking, and fucking Derek Thomas got those 7 sacks on Dave Craig. We were sitting up second level in one of the end zones, and man, fucking Derek Thomas just owned the field that day, man. That was such a great game. Arizona, yeah. Well, at least you got that dry heat, man. Up here it's, heat and humidity, and my god, sometimes when it's like 85 or 90 out with 70% humidity, it just feels like it's 150. I bet it is. Right on. Yeah, I've just got the one. I don't know when I'm gonna uh when I'm gonna bust that out. Hey, Ryan, welcome, brother. Glad you can make it, buddy. We're still just hanging in there. Just been bullshitting about some old childhood memories and toys and cartoons and shit like that. Just been having a good night tonight. So they're not. They're not. we got to play you guys in. Okay. Arizona has 100. Well, that's cool. That would give some people some options. If we was gonna meet up down there, we'd have to pick a time of year, maybe spring or fall. When it's not so crazy. But I mean, is it hot there most of the year round, no matter what, or do you get some cool seasons down there? Right on. And I've never been to Seattle. I wanted to. And I wanted to go back up there in the early '90s when all the grunge fucking music and shit came out, and all the good stuff that was coming out of all the good music that was coming out of Seattle. We almost took a trip up there one year just to go see some concerts and shit. I wanted to go up and see like Nirvana and come up and hang out and check out that part of the country. I've never been there before, but I've heard it's really beautiful country, for sure. Alrighty. Well, this baby has done me good, but it's time to put this thing to bed. I'm gonna go pick me out a second cigar to light up. So you guys talk amongst yourself for a minute, and I'm gonna go grab me another stick, and I'll be right back. Well, I've been hanging on to a few of these. I got two more. This is the 2025 basin. So I'm gonna have me a basin. Finish off the night with. Went to the CI store in Jacksonville. Oh, I bet, man. Did you see that video that he just put out about his collection? Oh my God, he he's got a massive, massive personal humidor. I can't imagine all the good stuff you could find at one of the stores. You know, that maybe toasted up a little bit. Huh? No, never been, never been to a cigar in Florida. So the heat lets up around September through April. Right on. Your winter time, which has got to be a hell of a lot different than mine here in Missouri. Huh. Man, so this is what's crazy. So I was a huge vinyl collector, and I bought you know, smell smells like Teen Spirit album on vinyl, and of course, it was the one with the little naked baby boy in the swimming pool, and I think I paid, man, I think I paid like $20 for that record. And when I sold my vinyl collection, and to this day, that first press, first release, um, is like over $500 for that one record. It's insane. Mm, man, these are good. I'm hoping that the 26s taste a little bit better with some age on them, but they're not. They're not as good as these. And then I need to do a comparison video. So my good pal Cassie at the cigar room in Lee Summit gave me one of the original 2014 basins, and so I thought about doing like a a fucking 14, a 25, and a 26, comparison. Um, but I bet that 14 is just freaking insanely good. Yeah, Spiritu 3, right on. Yeah, right on. A little bit bolder. Yeah, that Encore is just a good mild cigar, but I mean it's one that you can just smoke just about any time with anything, and just a good solid tasty stogie for sure. Right on. About 30 minutes, you said. Huh. Well, pretty much. I mean, a lot of those records that I bought back in the day, I paid 20, 30, $50. Double albums were like $50 for some of that stuff, but shit, a lot of the records that I was buying later on, COVID really, spurred the resurgence of vinyl, and damn, man, a lot of the cigars that or a lot of the records that I was looking for, because I like, I wanted, very good plus the near mint records with the uh, good quality vinyl, and like all the posters and stickers and all the stuff they're supposed to have, and just that original press. And God, dude, I mean, I was paying well over $100 to sometimes 300-400 bucks for one record. So it's just like, oh my God, you know. But I recognized that the market was hot, and man, I made some really good money off my record collection for sure. But all the getting up and down and all the keeping them clean and keeping them cataloged and getting all of the right plastics and way to store them so you can get them in and out and listen to them. And it just got to be too much work, you know. And now it's like, you know, I can stream pretty much whatever I want, and I've got all my CDs burned off that I used to have, and I don't have a lot of physical media anymore. I've still got my first press, Dark Side of the Moon, and a couple other rare records that I'll just never get rid of. That'll be, worth even more money than what they are now. But it's really nice just to kick back in my chair and tell old Alexa to play this or play that on the system, and just whatever I want to hear, I just tell her what I want, and it comes up and it plays and it sounds amazing, and don't have to keep all that crap, and it takes up a lot of room, dude. A big freaking record collection takes up a shit ton of space. It is crazy. Right on. Yeah, I mean, there's some records that just mean something to you that it's just like, man, like I've still got my original uh Terminator soundtrack, that I bought when that came out, and that fucking record is worth a buttload of fucking money, you know. I actually kept that one. So that album that came with the big ass quarter-pound rolling paper is the Big Bamboo album, and yeah, I still have that, and it's still got the rolling paper in it, and I've still got the Alice Cooper album, the Billion Dollar Baby one that has the big giant, you know, fucking $1 billion bill in it, you know. So a lot of those cool old records that came with some of that shit, and like that Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. So it's got two posters, it's got stickers, all the original shit that came with it. It's got this cool picture, like was taken on the moon. It's kind of green and it's got a pyramid in it and shit, and um, a lot of those old records and stuff used to come with like posters and shit like that. So it's kind of hard to turn loose of that, especially when you can find them that has everything. Oh man, me too. In fact, Todd, just last week, I was listening to Joe's Garage Part One and Two. I love that record duo. That's it's like a musical drama. It's kind of like Jethro Tull's Passion Play. But yeah, love some Zappa. For sure. Well, my cigar room used to be uh, my listening room. In fact, I'll pull up some. Let me pull up some pictures from that. What that used to look like before it became the Death Star. So I had like my office and shit, and a bunch of my records in there. Just had one chair down here, like my CDs and stuff. And then of course I had, all the RGB lights and everything in there, so I could, mood set whatever I wanted. And then of course I always had the Death Star mural uh, down here for that. And but it was a really cool room, man. Really loved it. And it had a hell of a system. So I had Project X2 with a Sumiko Moonstone cartridge. Had a Arcam integrated amplifier. Phase Tech 12-inch sub with a couple of Focal Cora 806s, and had a record cleaning machine. And you know that was it was a fun room, man. I built that down here. Her mother lived with us until she passed, and I just turned it into my vinyl room, because I had a lot of that upstairs, and right on. Yeah, young. So that's that's my Ace Frehley car. I've always been a huge Kiss fan. So the Fogey Mobile, it's the 35th anniversary. It's got the original LS1 in it, with a Vortec supercharger. Pretty much stock block and heads. I did put heavier fuel rails on it and a bigger pump, because it was leaning out on the big end. And then a full stainless Borla exhaust system, no cats, all the way back. Updated brakes, updated, frame connectors and shit, all that kind of stuff. And then, it's got a badass system in it, and, blue interior LEDs, and, my Ace Frehley graphics on it and shit. So that's my and the custom plates says Ace Z28 on it. Well, thanks, man. Yeah, I wish I still had it, but just kind of one of those deals. You get further on in life and you're doing more things and stuff, and it's just like, hobbies come and go. You know. But I will say this, that the trade off going from collecting vinyl to, you know, the cigar world and everything, just number one, the community is so much better. You know what I mean? There's so many more cool people in the cigar world than there is in the vinyl world. I mean, there's a lot of people in the vinyl world that are just straight up, shitbirds. And I had a channel. I still have it, but I don't put any content on it anymore. So one of my hobbies, Todd, was is and I don't do it anymore because I'm too fucking old and I'm too fucking blind. But I would repair vintage hi-fi equipment. So I'd take a receiver, or integrated amp or a power amplifier, and go through it and rework all the boards, and change out all the transistors, and go through everything, and replace diodes and resistors and all that shit, and get everything back up to snuff. And that channel it's called the Hi-Fi Jedi, and I had a little side business, and would fix up turntables and set them up for people and do all that kind of stuff. But it just got to the point where it was like, like I said, I just couldn't see very good anymore, and trying to look at all those little things and fucking desolder and solder all those components and the boards and stuff, it just got to be too much. But I do have a lot of, vinyl content and cool records that I bought and stuff that I've shared on that channel and stuff. Was a 95. Then you got a 2011 SS. Right on. Nice. Yeah, those Magnaflow sound good too. Right on. Yeah, and toys come and go. They do. And nothing's more important than your kids. You know what I mean? Uh, a fat ass toy sitting in the garage doesn't put fucking food on the table for your kids. It doesn't buy things that you want your kids to have. It doesn't buy them neat shit and opportunities and trips and stuff like that. So yeah, sacrificing a toy temporarily for your children, that's just a no brainer. You know what I mean? In fact, one of my very first cars that I ever had, still my favorite Camaro body style is the 69 Camaro. So I had a 69 RSSS 4-speed car, black with the red racing stripes, and then it had those cool chrome cowl cutouts in the hood. Had the hideaway bucket headlights, the vacuum operated hideaway headlights on it and shit. That car, God, I think I sold that car for like 5 grand back in the day, and I just kicked myself because it was the RSSS, really rare car. And damn, I wish I still had that car. That thing was fun, and we would just romp the shit out of that thing. It would get up and go. In fact, I was burning through clutches so fucking fast, and that car ended up putting a brass clutch in it. you know? Yeah. Yeah, and I taught my son, how to work on motors. In fact, I bought him a little he used to come down in the garage with me and was helping me restore this old Harley and taught him about tools and all that stuff. And then he got a little KDX 80 project that I got for him and taught him how to take the motor out. And we went through the motor and tore it all apart and taught him how to rebuild it all and do all that stuff. And good skills to have. And he can do his own brakes now. He can do a lot of stuff. I mean, I taught him a lot of mechanical you know things that he can, skills that he is still able to utilize, for sure. Mm. Well, these basins are really unique, you know. Kind of got a tang to it, but I really like them, you know. And it was such a hype cigar. And I think there was a hell of a lot more of the 26s that were available than the 25s, at least in my experience anyway. I couldn't even hardly find any 25s. In fact, I think this one might be the one that Rise and Grind gave me because he gave me my first Amazon basin. I think this is it. But a lot of good cigars coming down the pipe, and I can't wait till that new Dunbarton cigar coming out. It's that twin wrapper. It's got like the Maduro top on it, the Connecticut bottom, and the Maduro top. I can't remember the name of it right at the moment, but um, Teg Tegro Negro or something. I can't remember, but those are supposed to be coming out soon. I can't wait to try that cigar. Right on. Well, dude, I'll throw one of these 26 in your goodie bag when I ship it out to you, buddy. Um, Oh shit, I bought a box and a half of these, and they've gotten a lot better since I got them. But it's a good stick. So I'll throw one of those in there with your other stuff that I'm going to send out to you. And I'm not going to wait until July when I get those tobacconaut Maduros. I'll go ahead and get you some stuff out probably next week. Let you try some stuff that I've been really enjoying. And I do love that CAO Brasilia. I like the box press. It's my favorite, and mostly because the Carrillo box presses have just got me hooked on box presses. And I tried that, and I've tried a couple of the other Vitolas, but I think the flavor of that Brazilian tobacco is really the best in that Brasilia box press. And it was kind of weird. It was like, because you don't inhale cigars, right? But I was smoking uh, one of those CL Brasilia box presses, and somebody got me cracking up, or something was going on, and I took a big old drag of it and breathed it into my lungs and breathed it out, and it didn't choke me, it didn't gag me, and so I was like, what the fuck? So I took another puff off of it and then inhaled it, and I was like, damn, this is smooth, you know. Of course, you get about just about an inch and a half in it, and then you don't want to keep that shit up, but yeah, I really like that CAO Brasilia. It's it's good. Some of their stuff's good, some of it's just kind of think that, like, anybody ever had that CAO, the what is it, the BX3 or whatever? Tried one of those. Wasn't really a huge fan of that stogie at all. Gun says the Leche Burro is coming out. You got a pre-release order, right on. Haven't smoked any yet. Got the candy. Right on. Love me some good candy. There's this company in I think it's New Jersey or New York, Syracuse, New York, I think, called Hercules Candy, and they've actually got they got a YouTube channel, and they show all this candy that they make and stuff. And man, I've ordered some of this ribbon candy from them before, and like some chocolate pecan clusters, and oh my God, they make the old school candy, and fuck, it's good. It's expensive, and what's really pricey is, like, if you don't live around there, they gotta pretty much pack that shit in ice packs, which is extra processing and extra cost. So it's like a one little bag of candy is like $36 fucking dollars packaged and shipped, but it's worth it. It's really worth it for sure. And I like some good chocolate. And every once in a while, depending on what cigar I'm smoking, I like some chocolate covered almonds or something, and just kind of munch on a little bit of chocolate, some nuts while I'm smoking on a cigar, just kind of cleanse my palate and stuff. And when I when I first started smoking cigars, I was like pairing cigars with food. I'd like smoke a cigar while I was sitting there eating on, like, I make this I call it the Elvis, but it's peanut butter banana cheesecake, and I make it from scratch, and it's really really rich, and I let the bananas get damn near black, and mush them all up, and mix it with some good, Peter Pan peanut butter, and then make the egg mixture and everything, and then the crust So instead of using cracker crumbs, usually you crumble up cracker crumbs and you mix it with butter and that makes your crust. Well, I use Nutter Butter cookies. So I put Nutter Butter cookies in the food processor with some butter and use that as the crust for that peanut butter banana cheesecake. And oh my God, that shit is good and rich. I mean, you can just have less like a little wedge of that. It's so rich. Um, but I remember smoking on a it was a Ashton ESG and eating on a piece of that cheesecake, and it was damn good. But I don't do that as much anymore. I kind of like more of the liquid pairing thing, but every once in a while I like to have a piece of candy or something while I'm smoking on a cigar, especially if I get into a cigar and I don't like the taste. I don't want to just let it go to waste. I hate throwing out cigars. Sometimes I have, sometimes it'll just be a cigar that it's like, nah, you know, I don't want nothing to do with this. Yeah, I agree, Young. I think, I think them some bitches need to sit for 3 damn years. They're just punch you in the throat and hot. They're just hot. I don't want to smoke fucking you know red pepper or cayenne pepper or it almost even has like a almost like a habanero or like a wasabi, real hot wasabi sting to it. But I'm really excited about this new freaking coffee machine. I know it's gonna be enjoyable. Sure is gonna be a time saver. I mean, for the most part, man, I freaking, you know, make most of my coffee pour over. I get fresh, locally roasted beans and grind them up and do a pour over. But God, that's so much work sometimes in the morning. And my espresso machine was basically the Nespresso Latissima that had like the milk frother cartridge on it and all that shit. And I mean, it made good coffee, but it was like the Nespresso pods are not that great. Just something about the flavor of those coffees that I really didn't like. But they got like these little reloader contraptions that you can buy with these little silver foil things, and you can put whatever coffee you want to in there. So I'd put good coffee in it, and it would make a pretty good like double shot or a good like lungo, you know. And it'd make a decent cappuccino, just a quick little thing. But I pulled me a few shots in a lungo, and I had an americano this afternoon with this new machine, and it's pretty delicious, and it you know adjusts its own grinder, calibrates its own grinder and extraction rates and pour rates and temperatures, and it's a smart little some bitch. But it's going to be really nice in the morning to get up and you know throw a little cup under there and just hit the button and have me a nice double shot in the morning when I first get up. 472 and Carpenter still would buy out Hershey Park for they okay. Yeah, they would buy out Hershey Park for their picnic. You got an actual tour of the factory. After Hurricane Alicia, they built Chocolate World, a fake factory tour. No, no kidding. It was kind of like an amusement park thing that they came up with after the fact. Well, It kind of is. I mean, it's a good cigar, but it's definitely one that needs some age. When I first smoked it, and then I had one, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago that I'd had for a year, and it was better. But shit, those are like 30 some odd dollars, for those ESGs. I mean, they're not cheap. I mean, some of the Opus blends and Vitolas, you can get a decent Opus for 30 bucks a stick, you know. But yeah, the ESG's good. The VSG's pretty good too. Um, I've enjoyed those, and um, like I said, the Ashton Classic was my very first cigar that I ever smoked, and I really, at the time I was like, oh, this is great, delicious, it smoked good, it wasn't too powerful, but I grew out of those pretty quick, and now it's like I go back to just a regular Ashton Classic, and it's like, nah, I'll pass. Wow, no shit, 60 plus. You know, I mean, I think, well, when I got those Lost Cities, that big Vitola of that, I think that was 50 bucks, but a lot of those other Lost Cities were like in the $30 range. And I get those Oro Oscuros for about 22 to $27 depending on what Vitola that is. And then the like most of the 20th anniversary um Vitola's right in the high 30s for those around here. So they're not too bad. And like those rare pinks that I got, those were all 30 or less. So they were good for sure. But I'm real lucky. I mean, we got a great cigar community here in Kansas City. A lot of great stores, a lot of cigar smokers, and so a lot of these stores are able to get in, a lot of these different, Opus drops and this, that, and another, and I'd much rather buy them local if I can. Nothing like walking into a shop and seeing a shit ton of Opus laying around, and you're like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. you know. At an Ashton Age Maduro a few weeks ago. It wasn't as good as I remember. You're 5 years in now. Okay. Goes by quick, don't it? Like, damn. You know, it's interesting how your palate develops as the deeper you get into your cigar journey. I mean, I never thought, I think when I first started smoking, I really wanted to start out with some mild stuff, but I got into like smoking like some tabernacles and some Olmec naturals and some like Fuente extra añejos and shit like that. And I was like, damn, these are really, really, tough to smoke for me. And now it's like, oh, I love these. You know what I mean? They taste so good, and it's pretty crazy. Yeah, and they had some pinks up at one of my locals today. They had a few of those, and then the other joint up there, they still got some of the pink blacks, and Yeah. Now I've only had one of the God of Fires. Um, I think it was the car. I think it was the Carlito God of Fire. Marvin sent that one to me, and it was pretty good. But I haven't had. They've got like what is it like the KKPs and some of the other God of Fires. I haven't tried a lot of those, but that one that I had, that Carlito God of Fire, it was really good. Yeah, so the very first 26 that I ever had young, it was like it blew my mind. I was like, "Wow, now this is a really good cigar." Just smoked perfectly, tasted great. Um, and I was like, I don't know, maybe 3 months in, 4 months in, and I was like, "God dang, this is what it's all about, yo." You know. And I have not had a lot of the aging room stuff. There's only a couple places around here that have it, and they've only got like maybe two or three um, blends from them, so I haven't really had them. And of course, the Ashton cabinets are not too bad. The VSGs aren't too bad. Um, but that Padron 1926 is delectable. That's well worth the money. And then I still smoke a shit ton of the Liga L40 Lanceros. That's a good cigar. I smoke a lot of those. Really enjoy them. Got me hooked on Lanceros. But and those, you know, I didn't know that I'd be able to find them. So I think I bought like four the first time, and then you know, they're all over town. I can get those. The Symmetry. I've had one of those. That's a pretty good stick. So you smoked that at your wedding? Right on. Yeah, it's always great going to a wedding and having a stogie, and the groom will send his best man out to go get some freaking cigars for the boys, and they pull out something, and it's like you want to smoke them with it, but you got something way better than that in your pocket. you know so it's like, thanks, I'll smoke this one. you know I think though, I mean, Ashton, that's a Fuente product, right? Ashtons are made by Fuente, aren't they, guys? Or at least rolled by Fuente factory or something. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I thought they were a Fuente product. And in fact, when I was watching YouTube videos to try to figure out what I wanted to smoke, um, uh, Maz from Holtz was raving about, hey, if you're just getting into cigars, try an Ashton Classic. It's a good solid stick, and you'll enjoy it, and everything. And uh, it definitely got me on the right path. And those guys put out a lot of great videos. I've watched a ton of their stuff. I mean, their production value is like, Hollywood. They're putting out fucking movie quality fucking stuff. You know, Holtz owns Ashton. I did not know that. Well, that's why. Well, yeah, and they, out of all the cigars out there and shit, they're always pushing like, Ashtons and like La Aroma de Cubas and my father's and just some of those core line things. That they always seem to smoke and push all the time. But I did not know that that was one of their products. So thanks for that. Oh, they do. So they're that big. Well, no wonder they got all that money for all that fine ass liquor and those high dollar light and camera setups and mic setups and production. I mean, fuck, they got a production team that just shoots all that shit and edits all that shit for them. Here I am doing it all by myself, coming up with everything, doing all the shooting and all the light setups and all the editing and coming up with all the graphics and all that stuff. And yeah, it really does, y'all. It does. It makes a lot of sense now, and it's no wonder. Uh, they got that kind of money, to do that shit with. And that's why they're pushing all that stuff. It's their shit. I didn't even realize. See, you just, never know what the old cigar community is going to educate you with, that's a really great little tidbit of information. Thank you very much. He got a Holtz ashtray. Right on. Although I will say that their content gets a little old. You know what I mean? Um, it it's just the same thing. I mean, they got a little different thing. Guess which cigar or this, that, and another. But most of their stuff is just the same thing with their you know flipping freaky socks and their suits and their fancy fucking bottles of liquor. And it's I just kind of quit watching it after a while because they just would never change. And they do put out a lot of good information that helps people. And it's certainly helped me out a lot as far as like learning how to light a cigar and cut a cigar and this, that, and another. And humidor etiquette. Don't be picking up a fucking cigar with your nasty greasy ass fucking hands and sticking it back in the box and shit, or smelling it or whatever the fuck. um they do got a lot of useful information. But and I've bought a couple of things from them, but not much. um like I said, I still really just like to get out and run around and get stuff from local stores. Man, this is just about when this thing really starts getting good. It's such a it's almost got like a freaking black almond taste to it, but then it's also got like this little bit of some kind of like citrus fruit on the back end of it. Pretty good though. Glad I got a bunch. And man, the just in the little over a year that I've had my channel and been doing my stuff, it's like, man, there's just motherfuckers coming out of the woodwork, with channels and stuff. And it's good to see. It's really good to see, people with original ideas and, people having fun, and making their content fun, and making it to where you just want to watch it, and sometimes watch it again. You pick up so much stuff or somebody's cracking your ass up, you know. Yeah, you know. I mean, look at the empire that Tim has built around that. I mean, it's just you know, and a lot of my, you know, like the humidor that I have because he did a great review on it and really was in depth about showing it off and explaining all the things that he liked about it and the things that he didn't like about it. And by watching that, it was able to, you know, I was able to, you know, modify some things and make it a lot better for me, a better product for me to use and enjoy, you know. Drive down to Walnut Street in Philly in Coonshoken and buy Fuente. Opus X was limited to one stick per person. Yeah. Yeah, but go find somebody outside and be like, "Hey man, come on in here," you know. A lot of the places around here are like that. They will allocate that shit to like two per day. So it's like, you know, you come back in the next day, nobody's bought anymore, you know, and you're like, dude, I want fucking six of these. Why don't you just save me some fucking trips up here, you know? But they won't, and I get it because it's like, you know, they want to make sure that a lot of their other customers have the availability to get those. But you know, it's not like I want to come in there and be like, you know, I want them all, you know, and just deny anybody else of having any and hoard the shit, you know, and you know, rarely do I ever do that, you know, to anybody. But my deal is so I take the wife with me, you know, and we'll go hit the place right before shift change. So I buy two, she buys two, then we let the shift change, and then we come back in and buy four more. You know? So that's 4 days worth of fucking trips in one shot, and I'm out, you know? So it's like it just there's a little bit of way to work around that bullshit, you know, and get stocked up on, you know, because if it's something you really like or you really want to have, I mean, you got to have at least six, you know. You got to at least have one to smoke and then a 5 pack to let sit. But, you know, with a lot of the Opus shit, you know, I want like 8 or 10 or, you know, whatever. And, because I know I'm going to love them or I do love them, you know. 100%, you know. And he's turned me on to so many good cigars per his recommendation, and he's really good about he's really good about describing it, you know what I mean? And he doesn't go off on those 37 tasting note tangents and shit, you know, and it's what it really tastes like to him, and you know that it's genuine, and you know that he's being honest with you about what it tastes like to him, and doesn't get too in depth on all the geek shit, you know. Just forthright, this is a good cigar, try it, I think you'll like it. And yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything that I've bought that he's recommended that I didn't like, you know, for sure. Right on. I gotta try some of those El Septimos. I have not had any, you know. And that's not too bad for all those, really. Well, y'all's, do you have some good brick and mortars around where you're at? Oh yeah. You know, uh, I've been with my wife for 34 years. We've been married for 30 damn years, and she knows damn good and well that I'm gonna be there for her for any shit that she needs or wants, or I find her stuff, and she's like real big into like Cincy shit and stuff like that. Of course, her hobbies have always been way cheaper than mine, thank God. But yeah, and she's not always there, but it's like if it's a weekend or she's got a day off or something, and I'm out and I'm gonna go run, and I know somebody's got some allocated shit, then I'm gonna be like, hey baby, let's go, and here's some cash, because some of those places too, it's like, especially if you got like a rewards program with them, they already know that you've been in there and bought stogies, and it'll come up, and some of these owners be watching these guys like it's 1984 and Big Brother's watching and shit, and they get in trouble if they sell you more than the two, and but yeah, like I said, I just we just pay with cash for like the first set, and then the next set I'll pay for it on my card, and then she pays for it on her card, and but then I get to cash her points out, and I get to cash my points out, so it works out pretty good, for sure. Yeah, yeah, and I mean but I mean look at all the stuff he's tried and all the stuff he's been through, and God, I can't imagine. Like I said, that video that he put out with all his personal shit, it's just like, oh my God, there's stuff that he's had that I'll never find or never get to try. Yeah, yeah, that set. I can't remember what that's called, but it comes with that really nice book with it, with the two different sets of cigars in there. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so you're in Cali. Well, and you guys, don't you guys have had a lot of battles with like cigar legislation and taxation, and uh, even being able to get shit out there, haven't you? Indian reservation about 9 miles from me. There's no tax. Wow. Okay. Have a huge humidor. There's a B&M right in my neighborhood that does buy four get one free. Right on. Well, that's too bad, man. That really is. Um, you know, it shouldn't be like that. You know what I mean? It shouldn't. There's, especially for the most part, you're not even inhaling this, and if you're not air polluting other people's personal space or whatever, what's the problem? You know what I mean? I just don't get it. You know what I mean? Oh my God. That's insane, dude. Yeah, I imagine. That's one of the things I love about fucking living in Missouri. You know, we're a fucking gun toting fucking state. You know what I mean? In fact, uh, it's about it's about a 3 hour drive from here to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And every year Tulsa puts on the biggest gun show in the country. I mean, it is massive. If you've never been there and you're a gun lover, I highly, highly recommend that you go there. And I mean, it is literally miles, miles of walking to get around to all of the tables with all of the people, the sellers, and and everybody's walking around with a AR or you know, uh, a fucking Benelli or a fucking old Sharps or something hanging off their shoulder or on their hip, and it's got a price tag on it. And that's the great thing about a gun show is you buy it from the individuals that are there. There's no paper on that shit. You know what I mean? There's absolutely no paper. So, you go buy a fucking blackout 300 setup from Larry from Sheboygan. um Nobody knows you got it but you and Larry. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things. I've got a few pistols and a few things that Mama's bought me for, like, whatever, but she'd go out and buy them and give them to me as a gift. Those are on paper, but 98% of all of my weaponry is not on paper, you know. Yeah, and it's just freaking huge, you know. And cheap ammo, you know. Um there's just fuck tons of everything and all kind of accessories and shit. You can go in there and buy everything that you need to put together a badass AR for 400 or 500 bucks, and it's gonna be better than some of the like maybe like an M&P or something like that. That's a factory build, with just the basic trigger group and all that bullshit. It's gonna have a better barrel on it and the whole 9 yards. And you can find some unique shit that you just can't find anywhere or you've never even seen it before. It's like, holy shit, like a fucking peg leg gun or a fucking little, 4 barrel fucking 44 Magnum Derringer or, something crazy. In antique guns and badass fucking bird guns, over and under fucking shotguns and Belgian Brownings and shit like that. I mean, it is. It's what the fucking Second Amendment is all about. Uh, you know, the right to bear and own. You know, right on. Well, you can pick up parts, and drop in triggers and, like, fucking muzzle brakes and you can find 50 cal kits for AR lowers. You can build a bolt action 50 caliber rifle that just clips onto a fucking AR lower for 2,200 bucks, and then you got you a fucking 50 cal. Yeah, and we have them around here all the time. And I mean, each city will have gun shows. I mean, I can go down to Springfield or I can go to St. Louis or, hell, a lot of the municipalities here in Kansas City, there'll be a gun show here, and then 3 weeks later, there'll be another one here and there'll be another one there, you know, and, you can, and you can certainly find some good deals. And, a lot of times these guys are at these shows because they're hard up for cash. Cash is king. and the throw them an offer, and a lot of times they'll take it because they want to get their money and get the fuck out, because they got some kind of hardship or some kind of something going on, and they're just piggy banking out their fucking guns, you know. Guns is saying, are you shooting pretty fast? Those don't wear out too often. Maybe he's loading his own shit and he's putting some bullseye in there. Yeah, got a little bit of hot powder. Oh fuck. I've loaded some like 454 Casull rounds for one of my fucking old Western guns. And man, we fucking loaded that shit up full of bullseye, damn near. And God, it would fucking sting your hand. It would hit so fucking hard, you know. But yeah, so Tulsa Gun Show, if you can ever get to go, that might be a cool place for everybody to get together. You know what I mean? All of us travel to the Tulsa Gun Show and hook up and smoke and do, you know what I mean? Now that would be fucking fun. I would be all about that shit, for sure. And I got some buddies that live in Tulsa and shit, and I could cook us some fucking barbecue too for the festivities. That would be fun, for real. Okay, everybody. So pound for pound, what's your favorite pistol? What's your favorite rifle that you own that you like to shoot? That's the best shooting gun, or the coolest gun that you own that you love the most? Rifle, pistol, go. Oh wow, a Derringer. Wow. Uh huh. That's a thumper. Good God, for sure. Hell, I've got an old 4570 Sharps that fucking kicks, and it's a rifle for God's sake, Yeah, and it's thank God that ammo's a lot more available now than it was. Right on, Model 29, the old Dirty Harry, and an M1 Grand. Yeah, it's hard to beat an M1 Grand. That Springfield action. It's a 30-06, right? Y'all says it's Springfield 1911 TRP. Yeah, yeah. A good 45 will knock the shit out of them. Just something about having some knockdown power. You know what I mean? And it's like I don't necessarily want to kill nobody. You know what I mean? But if I shoot them in the leg with a big ass fucking caliber fucking gun, they ain't gonna be coming after me. You know what I mean? Yeah. That was I hunted with an M1 Grand 30-06 for years, and then I went to the M1A. The semi-automatic, and that's a good. Well, yeah. What was that on? I think it was. Oh God damn it! What's the movie with where he's the cop? There's the two cops, and is Riggs and Murtaugh. What the fuck name was that movie? Lethal Weapon. You know, is Lethal Weapon, and that guy was talking about, yeah, I just I just try to shoot him in the leg or something. you know. Well, if you're shooting them in the leg with a little 380 and shit, they're probably still coming out of you, you know. Especially if you know, they're on PCP. 1903, right on. I tell you, probably my favorite deer gun, and it's a great brush gun. It's just a good old fucking Winchester Model 94 30-30. You know what I mean? Open sights, just great carry gun, great brush gun. You can run around through the woods with it, scratch the shit out of it. Bullet doesn't fucking deflect when you're shooting through brush and shit. And lightweight gun, you know, you can put, you know, like 8 rounds in it and just grab that fucker and go out and hunt all day. You know, just a good, solid shooting gun. Well, probably my favorite, I would say, pistols would be. I've got a Remington Delta 10 millimeter that is just the sweetest shooting, high powered fucking pistol that I've ever had. That thing is fucking amazing. And then probably rifle wise, I mean, other than all the fancy shit like that, I've got an old original Belgian BAR 7 Magnum, and that's a great gun. Got a Leupold 3x9 on it, and you know, that thing just shoots so smooth, and you can knock the ass out of about anything with a 7 mag. You know, it's a little overkill for whitetail, especially like small deer, but at a distance, it's a good gun. We got a we got a couple of old strip pits, old strip mines that we hunt at, and we get up, you know, on the tier around the top, and the deer will be down coming and getting to drink and shit. And we got some good long shots, and we'll just sit up there on the hill and wait for them to come in and blap, you know. But I do like that BAR. It's a good gun for sure. And then of course my M1A1 Barrett. That's that thing, man. That we've you can put the tripods down and lay down on the ground and stick like a 2 liter bottle next to the muzzle brake. And when you pull the trigger, just the force coming out of that muzzle brake just fucking vaporizes that 2 liter bottle. It just fucking goes everywhere. And you got it set like 3 feet away, you know, because you don't want to get pop all over your ass. But it's that thing, that's a smooth shooter, and damn, you can you know, with with just some ball ammo, I mean, you can punch a perfect fucking hole in like half-inch fucking plate steel at 250 yards, and it looks like you drilled it. It's that fucking perfect of a little, you know, crazy. And then I like my fucking Ruger Mark 522. That's a good shooting little semi-automatic pistol. Hell, I've squirrel and rabbit hunted with that little thing a lot of times. Pack it on your side and go run out in the woods and plink off some bunnies and some squirrels with it and shit. got a bull barrel on. It's the Mark II. Mark II. But oh man. Well, gang, it's almost midnight here. We're about 3.5 hours in on the show. I got a little bit left in my basin, and my son just got home from work, and I want to go bullshit with him a little bit and talk to him about what happened with his aunt today and let him know what's going on. See those barrels, 1500 when they came out. Yeah. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I think we had fun tonight. I did, strolling down memory lane and just talking and doing some shit. And like I said, I'm gonna be on with Rising Grind on Sunday, so you guys come hang out with us on Sunday and bring a stick, and we're just gonna hang out. And I think our little podcast thing going back and forth, I think that's gonna turn into something for both of us, man. It's really had a good time. I know he had a really good time, and definitely a good point counterpoint setup, and it just jives and it's fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to doing some more, And right on. I did too, man, for sure. Ron says, nice show, Fogey, but you know who else remembers? Pepperidge Farm. Man, Ron, have a good night. I hope stay safe out there on the road, brother. Really appreciate you. Um, Always glad you can at least listen in, while you're out there on the road doing your thing, making that money. But anyway, thanks a lot for coming, guys. It's been a good time. Had a couple of good sticks, some great conversation with y'all. I really appreciate it. I really thank you for supporting the channel. And, I'm getting shit. I'm at like almost 350 subscribers now. And it's just been, oh, absolutely. Absolutely, buddy. But anyway, you guys have a good night. Have a great rest of your weekend. Come join us on Sunday. And until next time, peace.
Thanks for watching the Old Fogies Stogies.